And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I'm your host, the Hockey Princess. We got Crusty old guy over here once again. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. Give us a review too. Let us know how you think that we're doing. We've been at this for a little over a year. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions, comments, you want to be on an episode, you don't understand something about hockey, about the Blackhawks, about anything hockey related, send us a message. These are the dark days of the off season where we have very limited things to talk about. So if you have a question, we will happily answer it. We can even dedicate an entire episode to it if it's a big question.
And if it's a bad question, we'll designate 2 shows to it.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into it. So like I said, this is the dark days of the off season, so we don't have a ton of things to talk about, but there are
Oh man, now they're gonna already click off. This is going to be riveted. It's just going to be a condensed form of riveted, everyone.
But we do have 2 exciting announcements. The Calgary Flames have announced that they are getting a new arena, going to be called the Scotia Place. The Saddle Dome is going to be no more. They are getting a nicer stadium. Press doesn't have to do a catwalk to the other side. I will miss it. Because we were able to go to Calgary this year. And I really enjoyed the Saddle Dome. As someone who did not grow up in the old stadium, it is really cool to have the opportunity to be in a building that still has that old feel and still resembles that. So I was glad that I was able to go to the Saddle Dome before all of this construction. Little sad about it. However, for people who are in Calgary, I understand. You see every other team have major updates consistently with their stadiums, and you do not. So I understand from a fan standpoint, if I'm a Flames fan, I understand the appeal to having something very much updated. I mean, they don't even have elevators in the Saddle Dome.
Yes, and they might have elevators. I'm unsure of that, but I know they don't have escalators. It's all walking up, just like the old barn. Yeah, good for them. I've got a question for all your Canadian listeners.
Yeah.
Why does everything have to have place? Look at every stadium. There's Rogers Place. There's whatever place. There's a name and then it says place. Why?
You have 2 centers. Canadian Tire Center and Bell Center.
Okay, and the other 3 are places. So it's either place or center. Just name it. I guess we have the United Center, don't we?
We really can't talk.
Yeah, I can talk. Yeah, I don't get the place thing. We all know it's a place. Okay.
They're also hoping that, with a newer stadium makes it a little bit more attractive for personnel and players to want to come to Calgary. At least it's a little bit more updated. It's a newer thing. You're not playing in a super old barn. I think it's going to be hard anyway, just because it seems like as of recent, it's a lot harder for Canadian teams, with the exception of, I think, Toronto and Montreal. Even Montreal, I think, struggles a bit because you've got the French aspect. Really, I don't think Toronto has the problem, but a lot of Canadian teams do have a problem of attracting talent to their cities that are not just draft picks. So I think it's still going to be a struggle for Calgary, but I think it does help them a little bit. It certainly doesn't hurt them.
No, it definitely helps. And the Blackhawks went through the same thing. Not so much with the United Center, but their practice facilities. Number one, taking them away from Bensonville, getting them closer to the city. The name of the game is number one is your practice facility. Where do all these people live? Is your practice facility going to be close to them? And then these guys all want luxury, man. They want to be sitting in a nice place. They'll do the work, but then they want a nice environment. I would assume for now their practice facility is still adjacent to their new place, unless word I'm hearing is they're going to keep the Saddle Dome. So,
oh, sweet.
Maybe they just practice there. I don't know exactly where the new building is, but I thought it was right around where the Saddle Dome is.
Yes.
But yeah, it'll be helpful. Canadian teams have issues with, Canadian taxes, the transfer rate, and everything else that affects them also.
Well, it's also difficult, I mean, you have so many players from different countries as well. Like say their X hockey player has played in the NHL for a couple of years and they've played in 3 different American teams. They really haven't had to worry about going to play in a different country, and it's not, and especially if they're older, it's not just them. It's the, getting their green card for their wife, for their kid. It's an added hurdle.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is. So, but hopefully things get better as far as they're concerned with it.
Yeah.
I mean, with the new building, I'm sure they will a little bit, but they're a team in disarray right now. So this is a step in the right direction, that's for sure, to make it a destination again.
Yeah. And I hope it does put them in the right direction. Like I said, we were able to go to Calgary. I really enjoyed being in Calgary. Everyone was really nice there. Way less annoying than Oilers fans. And so I hope that this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and they got that Big Sur or whatever by there. You can go see mountains. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't go because Crusty old guy struggles to see scenery, but
well, and to be fair, I thought it was by Vancouver. My Canadian geography west of Toronto is just really skewed.
Yeah, I didn't go to that class, so I don't know what to tell you.
Next one is for your Chicago Blackhawks. It was released today that they have a Project 1901, which essentially is that they are revamping the area around the United Center. There is going to be a park. There is going to be a music hall. There is going to be all these sorts of different things. They are projecting it to be in the works for the next 5 to 10 years, potentially. So it's not a quick thing that's going to happen. I think they see that, there isn't a ton around the United Center where a lot of other NHL teams have, an area around their stadium or around their center that has other things as well for them to go to before or after the game. It's not hockey, but St. Louis does come to mind outside of Busch Stadium where the Cardinals play. You've got that area around. People can pregame, people can spend a ton of money before then going to the hockey game and spending more money. I am all for this, except for 2 things. They provided a bunch of pictures of what it could potentially be like. There's one thing that's really, really missing in these pictures that I think is a huge thing for Blackhawk fans. Where are people going to park? In all of these pictures, and they weren't really mentioned that there is going to be parking. So what are they expecting, suburban fans to do? In the Sun-Times article, they kind of stated that they would really like for the city to pay for an additional pink line stop out of, the city's budget. I don't see that happening one bit, because if we all know one thing, the city's really broke. And if the Blackhawks want it that bad, they can pay for it. The Wirtz have money, but there's no parking whatsoever, which I think is a huge problem, because right now I'd say there's at least 6 lots, would you say, surrounding? But
Yeah.
about that holds a lot of cars, a lot of people to sit in a lot of seats. And unless you have a solution, are you planning to do like what the Cubs do, where they have shuttles to different lots further away? But even then, if you do that, the United Center is in the West Loop, which is fine. It's definitely on the up and ups. But depending on the direction that you go, the United Center can neighbor some not nice areas. So if you're putting parking lots in certain areas, it's kind of stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah. Number one, with the shuttling stuff off, there's a big difference between shuttling people in the summer,
yeah,
and shuttling them
in the snow.
Winter. Come winter, people ain't going to be waiting around 15 minutes for shuttle. They're going to be very angry and very frozen.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. One of my fears is they're going to do one little 6-7 story parking garage. Now, Hockey Princess, you've dealt with like a 3-story parking garage getting out of Rockford, and you see what that's like.
Guys, if you guys haven't gone to a Rockford Ice Hogs game, it's really nice. They have a parking garage that's attached. There's a little walkway that you can go straight into the building, and that's great. However, it takes, I'd say, at least a half hour to get out, depending on where you're parked.
Yes. Again, we could probably park on the street and get out quicker. It's not that big of a deal, but if you're not out right away, you end up waiting a long time. So the exit strategy for any kind of parking garage
is a nightmare.
Will be a nightmare. They have to figure out some form of parking. Number one, as far as the CTA paying for a stop. I worked with the CTA for many, many years. I can tell you, the CTA has never built a stop ever in their lives. Okay, either the federal government or the state or somebody else has come in and built it. CTA is not going to pay for shit. I can tell you that. They don't pay for any of the stops. Okay, that's either federal, state, or some kind of local business money. So that would be on Jerry and the boys to make a stop there. And again, you're talking about, you're not expecting people to drive in, you're expecting them to metro down and then take the L out. You've already got a bus system that basically handles those people already.
Yeah.
So you're not alleviating anything. You're giving a convenience factor from the downtown area having a stop there over a bus, but you have a way, you're already doing it right now with the bus.
Yeah.
So if you want the stop, I'm telling you right now, you're going to have to pay for the stop. And also, I don't know what the game plan is to do for parking, and it's an issue.
It's a huge issue.
As you pointed out, if you go further west, granted, further west from the United Center has already been gentrified somewhat.
Yes.
But not where I think people are going to want to shuffle like 6 blocks to go park. I don't think anybody's going to want to do that in the winter.
Right.
Going east, there is nothing.
Right. You've already built it up.
Everything is already built up. Again, could you go north? Maybe. But again, I don't like the idea of trying to shuffle people in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
You're leaving people out in the freezing cold, and as we well know, it's brutal, at least for a couple months during the year.
Yeah.
So, okay, that was your concern number one.
My concern number 2 is for folks who have not been to the United Center, it's a lot of parking garages that kind of surround, but there's also a lot of housing that is right around the United Center, of various different types. There's definitely some housing pretty close to the United Center for individuals who need additional assistance, who are low income. How do they plan to handle that? I know in the Chicago Sun-Times, they listed that there would be of mixed income housing. I don't really believe that. I think it is I am concerned for those individuals who are going to be displaced and potentially unhoused by this of creating an entertainment center around the United Center. So I just really hope that they are taken care of first and foremost, even above the parking, because it's not their fault that they're getting pushed out of their homes. And I think that also applies if, you know, they were to build parking, say they build parking northwest or east of the United Center and do the shuffling situation, there's potentially other individuals that you are displacing out of their homes to make that. And so that probably is my biggest concern, is that those individuals are taken care of by this project.
Yeah, there's a good amount of low income housing to the south. Even right next to the United Center.
I was gonna say, isn't this there? It's the Sullivan. It's the apartment building. Like, you're right next to the Billy Goat, and you're walking towards the United Center. I don't know what exactly that housing is used for, but that's pretty close where I feel like it would be affected.
That's what I'm gonna sound like an ass now. The old people places, what are those called?
Retirement homes. Assisted retirement homes.
Assisted living home. Yeah, that one is that. I don't think they're stretching that far though.
Okay.
So I think that would stay, but you still have the buildings like right where we walk in.
Yeah.
That's all low income. What do you plan to do with those people?
Because that is a serious concern. Like, I mean, parking's a serious concern, but like those individuals, like, you can't just be like, okay, we want to build, go find somewhere else to live. You need to come up with a solution if you're gonna, you know, tear down their house.
Yeah, because then they'll be angry. I mean, I will say this. We've never had a problem with people around the United Center. It's been fantastic. Of course, I get people, you know, asking for money or this or that, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing ever bad. So yeah, I don't like the fact that all of a sudden, depending on where you're moving them, you're going to make them very unhappy. I don't know what this music venue is. Is it indoors? Is it outdoors?
Indoors, it looks like.
It looks like it's indoors.
Yeah.
And then the rest is all green area for people to walk around and have different indoor facilities, right?
Yes. From the preliminary pictures that I've seen.
Right. And the biggest thing about the green area is it's not going to be used during the season anyways. They'll have snow all over it. You know, the other thing is, even where they're not building, you have some other low-income housing, but you have some family roots all around. What does this dictate for their nighttime? Are you telling me every night now this neighborhood's going nuts? And then you're going to continue it all year round? You know, what's the deal with that? And obviously, during the winter, you have games most nights at the United Center.
Yeah.
So what do you do
with the Blackhawks and the Bulls? You're figuring it's at least 5 nights a week.
So what are you doing with this music theater? Are you telling me that's another 6,000 people you want to park nowhere? We have music also at the United Center. I don't see the value in it at the end of the day. We have little places like that popping up all over the place. I would like that to be used for something else. I don't see the point in it. I get them wanting to put a hotel there. I get them completely. That land is very valuable. If I build up all the land with businesses that have to pay me and I get to take a percentage from them, everybody's going to want to party closer to it. So, in essence, they want their money. But I'll ask you, Hockey Princess. I mean, you would know better than me. You seem to get a lot of enjoyment out of what they've done with Wrigley. Well, it gives you a nice place to go sit if you don't even want to pay to get into a concert. They seem to have a lot of nice stuff around. Am I right?
They do have a lot of nice stuff around. I will say, though, as someone who does live up by Wrigley, if you are not partaking in a big event that they have at Wrigley, it is a giant inconvenience and pain in the butt for pretty much the entire day. So I do, my heart goes out to the individuals who maybe they aren't displaced from their homes, but it is going to be an inconvenience to have that many people, even more, in your neighborhood constantly. It is a pain in the butt. But yeah, I mean, they've got the Gallagher Way spot outside of Wrigley, which is nice. They have events there. And it gets packed. They do a ton of different things during the summer.
Yeah. So again, it's got good points, but again, it becomes a parking issue and a neighborhood issue. This was just dropped. And questions were out there for a while because Reinsdorf was buying most of the parking lots around the United Center. So everybody was kind of wondering what was up. But we haven't heard back from anybody on the. Huh?
Can you explain to our listeners who Reinsdorf is?
Yes. Well, Jerry Reinsdorf owns the Sox and he also owns the Bulls. Jerry Reinsdorf is co-owner along with the Wirtz family of the United Center. So yes, every dollar that you give at the United Center, half goes to the Wirtz, half goes to Reinsdorf. So this will be another complete joint venture with them, but that's who Jerry Reinsdorf is. He's a main owner of the White Sox, but not completely. There's a ton of minority owners, but he's a main owner of the Bulls. So and the United Center. So that's basically his gig, but he was buying up then a lot of the parking lots. So people kind of knew what was up. I think you'll get something that's kind of in between. As I said, the music site just seems redundant to have something like that right next to something that'll hold 15,000. I just don't quite understand that. I could see it being put to a greater use on a lot of different levels. But again, you like the hotels there. You like the fact if you're selling a Bulls game for a weekend or something, you stay right there. All of your entertainment's right there. I get that. I think it's a harder sell when you're dealing with winter sports. We don't have the weather for that. I mean, I don't know what Wrigley's using Gallagher Way for in the winter, but I would assume not much.
They actually, there's a mini version of the Kris Kringle Market that they have in the Loop, and a lot of it's primarily folks who live up in this area where the Loop one has kind of just been overrun by tourists, and so a lot of people that don't want to go to the Loop one will go up to the one at Gallagher Way.
Okay, so it's possible to do stuff. You can put up like tents So there's not like a ton of snow and stuff, I guess.
I think they have ice skating too. Like they definitely try to make use of, I mean, because it's not that big, but they definitely try to make as much use out of the space year round as they can.
Okay, so I mean, it might have some advantages. Again, the neighborhoods are different. And how are you going to be handling that? Again, this is at the beginning stages, so we'll see where it goes. I don't consider it a bad idea.
I think pieces of it that I don't consider to be a bad idea. I also don't think that this seems like a very ambitious plan, and I don't think necessarily everything out of this initial plan will come to exist. I like this in bits and pieces, but I think most importantly, they need to take care of the individuals who were there first. Otherwise, I hate it all.
I can dig it. That's about all I've got on it. I mean, we'll dig into more of it as if it becomes relative.
Yeah.
Again, my main concern will always be parking. It'll be more of a pain. Whatever.
Thank goodness they're not going as far as our taco place, because they can't move.
Well, we'll talk to them when the season starts and see if they've been approached. I would assume that's a prime little area. So, at that point in time, you have a decision to make.
Right.
Does your business survive something like that?
That I believe they have other locations as well. Like it's not just one like family run. I believe there's multiple locations.
Yeah, I would assume they'll be gobbled up, but again, we can talk to them when we see them this season.
Yeah. So that's all that we have on the big new arena spaces, the centers, the places.
Yes.
But now Crusty and I are going to do a little captain speculation. Because some captains have gone to different teams this offseason. Some captains some teams don't even have captains. There's a couple in particular. So we'll start off with our favorite. Crusty, what's Chicago going to do?
Oh, Crusty doesn't know.
What would you like?
Huh?
What would you like?
What would I like?
Feel free to annoy all of the meatheads with.
I'd love to annoy all the meatheads and give Seth Jones the C and just watch the whole hockey scene freak out like the end of the world is coming. But that's just the part of me that really likes to mess with people who are way too overzealous about certain things. As far as what I would think they should do, might do. Number one, you've got to figure it's the kids at some point in time. The Beacon of Hope gets it. Your next question is, do we give it out to anybody else beforehand?
No.
Okay, well, if you don't, the next question is they won't give it out to where he's younger than Johnny was when Johnny got it.
So what's that? 2 years?
Probably be 2 years.
Wait. Okay, because he got drafted. He was 18. 1 year in North Dakota.
Uh-huh.
And was given the C.
Not in his first year. They came in for a year, and then I think afterwards he was given it. So I believe he was 19, little under 20. Tiny bit under 20. So that's at least 2 more years for him. 2.
The child is 19.
Okay. But maybe 1 more year.
They wait until he's 20.
Yes. I do not believe in that. So
Why?
what I would do, Foligno's already worn a C. He's there for 3 more years. You're paying him to basically be a babysitter anyways. And you know he's not going to play after that. So that gives you a 3-year window to give it to Nick and then to move on. And in 3 years, give it to the Beacon of Hope. At the end of the day, for this ball club, you're making a disgusting face, Hockey Princess. At the end of the day, for this hockey team, it doesn't matter too much. What is very important this year is this leadership group. And when I say leadership group, I mean Nick Foligno, the Dick, and Seth Jones. Has to bring back accountability into the locker room that somehow left last year and was gone, and nobody was accountable for shit. There is no way that you are going to put that kind of pressure on 98 to hold 30-year-old men accountable for what they're doing on the ice. He is way too young for that. So that is a job by our veteran leadership group, and it has to be addressed. It'll work out perfectly if they can address the locker room problem before the rest of these young kids start coming up. Because if it's not, then you're going to see these kids coming up and seeing a locker room that is still dysfunctional, which is bad. So the main thing, I could care less who has a C this year. I could care less who has an A, but that veteran group has to take care of that locker room. So at the trade deadline, when EDM comes up, when Frank Nazar comes up and other players come up, that locker room is not a problem anymore. And there's already 20 guys who know what's expected and know what they have to do. So they can see the example throughout the whole locker room. That's what Crusty old guy wants. I could care less what letter anybody wears for this year. But it is imperative that they get that locker room fixed. Foligno's done it a lot of different places. He's more than capable. But this is a team problem. This isn't a Luke problem. This has to be handled by the veterans on this team. And Nick Foligno and the Dick are getting paid a lot of money to do very little on the ice, so they better lead in the locker room. There, I went off on a little tangent too.
It's okay.
But
We got 10.
But for me, I would make the move now because do you really want the Beacon of Hope going through 2 more years, getting the questions about it? The team then has to get the questions about it. How do you feel about it? Do you think you need a captain? Do you think you should be? The questions don't stop. The only way to stop the questions is give out the C. So, the Meathead fan base went nuts when Seth Jones said it would be an honor to be the captain. And they all went and go, oh my God, he's screaming that he wants to be captain. Yes, Hockey Princess.
I also believe that the journalists that were in the room very much skewed it, not in Seth Jones's favors, because you read the titles or even like the first couple of sentences before the article, and it does not frame what Seth Jones was actually saying. Every reporter in that room did him so dirty when he made that comment, because he said it would be an honor, but no. And everybody just took Seth Jones wants it. And it's like, okay, Seth Jones is one of the only players of NHL caliber. It wouldn't be the end of the world if Seth Jones had the C. Who do you want?
Yeah, and it was a very misleading title. Most of it was cleared up in the article, but as we mostly know, people are way too,
past the third sentence.
It's 2 sentences, man. That's it. That's all our blame. Then we have to scroll to the next thing. We can't. So I would like him maybe to be captain just for the fact that I then don't have to go through all the questions. And the beacon of hope. The main thing is to make this as easy as possible on the beacon of hope. If I can get the leadership group, yes.
You stop doing that the minute you mishandled the Corey Perry situation. They don't care about making it easy for the poor kid. They're going to put the poor kid through the ringer.
Well, I'm hoping that's not the case. Because he's going to be responsible for players. Because trust me, when Frank Nazar comes up, if the locker room is the way it should be, the person that Frank Nazar is going to answer to a lot will be the beacon of hope. They're at the same age group. Connor Bedard is not going to have a problem calling out Frank Nazar. He's not going to have a problem calling out EDM. He's the same age now. He's not doing it to people 12 years older than him. So everybody else coming in, he will already start to inflict his leadership ways on them, I believe. But that will be impossible if the locker room isn't taken care of beforehand. So I think the best way, give Nick the C, spread out your A's if you want. If you feel you have a burning desire to give Connor an A, give him an A maybe for home games so it looks good when you take pictures. But the kid doesn't need any letters on the front right now. Just let him play. Let him concentrate on his game. And I guarantee he will take care of the younger players when they come up. They will answer to him. So there, I went a little too long on that again, but that's it for me on that one.
I don't think it needs to happen right now. I do think that it will be the beacon of hope. And this is probably, my opinion is probably very much deeply rooted in me being a tiny tot when Johnny got the captain. But to me, it does mean and it does matter a bit to me who wears the C. When I see a player wearing the C, I think it should be someone who plans to be there for the long haul. Like I said, it's probably just because I grew up with Johnny being the captain for so long, but I think it should be a guy who's going to be there past a couple of years, who is a part of the long-term game plan. I don't think that they need to have a C until Connor's ready. I think it would be great that, when Connor does, or when he gets his next contract, when his entry level ends, I think that should be a part of it. Different sport. I'm going to jump real quick to baseball real quick about it, where, Aaron Judge with the Yankees, when he was, handling his next contract with New York, he had, I'll resign, but you are making me the captain of this team. I need that from you to prove to me that I'm here for the long haul. And I do think that it should be a part of Connor's contract. I think it should come with the next contract. I don't think he needs it right now. But I don't want to see a guy who is only going to be here for a couple of years wear the C. I am fully okay with the team not having a C for a while. I don't think every NHL team has to have a captain, and I don't think that we should all get into a freak out of, oh my God, this team hasn't had a captain in X amount of years. Okay? That's fine. It's a letter on a jersey. There's probably other leadership in the locker room, and there's going to be leadership in Chicago. Like, what, with who you said, with Foligno, with the Dick, with Seth. I think you give the three of them A's, make it all mutually their responsibility to have the accountability in the locker room. And I don't think you need a captain.
Okay. I would like it taken care of just for the fact that the questions just won't end. So
yeah, but then they'll find another stupid question to ask. There's a never-ending list of dumb questions for people to ask hockey players.
right, but this one gets people's feather in their panties in a bunch. But either way, that's your opinion. I think I've given mine.
Yeah. Shall we jump to our next team?
Okay, let's jump.
Well, in case anyone hasn't heard, Tampa Bay Lightning currently do not have a captain right now. Steven Stamkos went with the Nashville Predators after the Tampa Bay Lightning made them kind of an insulting offer, in my opinion. What do we think Tampa does?
Well, I guarantee this year they do nothing. I can't imagine that somebody goes right in there and gets it. Let me take a quick peek at how old everybody is. But Kucherov is 31, and the other guy that you might think about is Brandon Point. He's 28. Is that a route you want to go? I guess maybe. I mean, they do nothing this year out of just flat out respect for Stamkos. And then they'll have to see where they're at as a unit. I think they'll be able to tell, or Cooper will be able to tell pretty well this year who is doing what, who is taking the team. So, I mean, for me, that's a definite I do nothing. I see what kind of leadership rises to the top. I don't think it's Kucherov's thing. But who knows? They've all had Stamkos to be their leader. So now somebody's got to step it up a little bit more. And hopefully you find out who that is.
Yeah. Could it potentially be? Because we're thinking like a year or two, or maybe a couple more years down the line until they name a captain. Could it be a Brandon Hagel if the leadership arises?
I don't see why not. I mean, I don't see why not at all. He's locked in long term and everything.
Yeah, they obviously want him to stay there. He'll have been under Stamkos's wing for at least quite a bit to kind of see what leadership in the locker room looks like for Tampa.
Yeah. I guess the only other person that now that I've missed it or whatever, I guess, and it would be easy to do even this year, is just transfer it to Hedman. I mean, you wouldn't have a lot of backlash from anybody. Victor is a complete pro, so
I don't think you would have any additional backlash because I think they've gotten enough backlash with how the whole Stamkos situation ended. I don't think you get anything more additional if you slide it over to Hedman.
Right, but he would be somebody who would be perfectly filled, who's, a rock solid leader. So I guess that's the spot where they could go.
Yeah. Jump to our next one. Brand new team. The Utah Hockey Club does not have a captain. Do we think that they're going to name a captain for their inaugural season? Do we think, because Arizona also did not have a captain as well, unless I'm completely incorrect. But do they want to have one for pomp and fluff come their first game in their new stadium for their new team? Or do they wait? Because they have made quite a few changes in their locker room since Arizona's final game. And do they kind of just wait and see how everything pans out?
I think they have to give it a year. I mean, there's nobody on that team that was born in Utah, is there?
No.
So you could do that kind of thing and make them all right, is anybody on that team Mormon?
I don't think.
Maybe then they would make him a captain. No. If you look at the Utah club, I mean, there's nobody that stands out. There's some good pieces in your Clayton Keller. You've got like a 2 or 3 other guys. Nick Smoltz is still there. No, I think they definitely wait. Ideally, I don't know if the Doan kid is going to play there this year, but I mean, that's who you'd be looking at. But that is years down the road. But I can't see how they do it. I think it's going to take a group effort to sell the game out there. So they've all going to have to be pitching in and doing their part, at least publicly wise.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of work to do down there. But no, do you see anybody that
no, I
would be wearing it?
I think they do wait because I think it's not like it's an immediate, roster or like there were no changes whatsoever from Arizona to Utah. They've gotten quite a few additional pieces and they've kind of moved things around. So it's not like it's the same locker room. I think if it was the same locker room as when Arizona played their last game, then yes, I do think that they bring out the C for their first year because it's the same kids who played together last year. But because of all of the key additions and switches that they've made, that takes time to kind of cipher through and see what is that locker room, what type of hockey team are they going to be out in Utah.
I can dig it.
Next one, let me see, on our fancy little list, is Anaheim. What's Anaheim?
That's a darn good question.
Because you definitely have some older, I mean, they're not old by any means. I'm not calling Trevor Zegras old, but compared to some of the very, very young prospects that are coming in, but it's still a fairly young team. So does Anaheim wait quite a bit until more of their young kids are in? I would hope that they don't go the Toronto route where they kind of just give these rookies immediately the locker room and they're like, figure it out. Because I think, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner are very, very talented hockey players, but I don't think that was a smart thing to do because you can see that every postseason. Something's wrong in the locker room because they can't make it work.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they do. I mean, you've got Troy Terry, who's been there a while.
Do you go with Gibson?
Huh?
You go with Gibson, but I wouldn't even think you go with that because he's like every other year. It seems like there's rumors that he wants out of Anaheim.
Yes, and no, they're talking about trading. Yeah, that Gibson won't happen. If you're looking at anybody older, it's Troy Terry. Again, I don't know how they would feel about that. Alex Killorn is there, but he's already 34. I think that would be silly. It's in McTavish's makeup for darn sure. He's a leader. So I think they'll give it at least a year. They'll see how Carlson and McTavish get along. And, Zellweger is another one who's worn some letters on the front for Team Canada. So they've got some young kids coming up.
Yeah.
My bet for captain-wise would be McTavish, I would say in another year. That if I'm looking at flipping this rebuild, that's probably where I'm going.
Because I feel like, like I said before, I don't think that every team has to have a captain, but I think when you're in the end of the beginning or in the middle of your rebuild, there definitely comes a point where you do need to name a captain to set the tone of the team moving forward to the rest of the rebuild. This is the type of team we are going to go forward with this rebuild.
Yes. People called it the Jonathan Taves moment, in his like second year where he's, flat out went to the press and everything else and said, this isn't good enough. And yes, that's what you want out of your leader is you want a unified calling out of everyone and saying, this level does not matter anymore. This all has to be better. Again, I think it's a part of the culture, and it's a senseless question that gets asked that causes too many problems when it gets asked. That I like it to be kind of done. I don't like long gaps of not having a C. I figure 2 years is like your tops. But as far as Anaheim, I mean, if I'm putting the money on anybody, it's McTavish. It's in his DNA. He's that gritty kind of player. I think they're just waiting to get rid of Zegras so they can completely form that team.
Yeah, makes sense. Seattle. What do we think?
Seattle. They don't have one either?
No.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know what they do.
I'm not sure just because I really don't understand what they're doing in general. I thought we definitely, saw a path, a vision of, okay, this is the type of team Seattle's going to be after their first year. Now with the second year not panning out as great and the confusing signings and massive contracts that are a little questionable that they had this off season, I'm really not sure. And it seems like a lot of veterans, but not in the same way that Vegas is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of questions on my guy.
I'd like to see Maddie get it.
That's who I would figure would be getting it next. Again, I think they take one more year and then give it to Beniers, or there's the possibility. If he's still in RFA right now, he's not signed. Maybe they, sign him for a $7 or $8 million deal for 8 years, and then they come on and announce that also he'll be wearing the C. That would be the only route that I could see them going down.
Yeah, I definitely think it's time for Seattle to have one. Just because I'm a little confused on what they're doing. I do think it's Maddie's C to get, just because I don't see anyone else being a part of the Kraken's long-term plan, and everyone they're not super old, but it's definitely an older team compared to other rosters in the NHL.
No, it is. I mean, yeah, it definitely is. Their average age has got to be about 29.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what Ron Francis is doing there. If you look at the complete makeup right now, he's trying to make some noise in the next 2 to 3 years. Because all these contracts he's signed are going to look like dog crap by year 4. Your Chandler Stevenson, your Montour. I've got to figure, if I'm a betting man, Beniers signs his first long-term deal. It's not he doesn't do any little bridge deal, and then they come out and make him the captain.
I don't think they should give Maddie a bridge deal from a talent perspective, and also you don't have any other younger kids to be like, well, we can't give you this massive deal because of this other kid. It's Maddie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's only 2 reasons you go for a bridge deal. You're unsure.
Which I
don't think they're unsure.
to make them be unsure of his performance.
Yeah, I think you're pretty dialed in what he is. And he's a darn good first-line center in the NHL. So you don't need really anything more than that. And yes, they're in no cap hell. They're not worried so much about money that they can't give him his huge payday yet. So no, it all bodes to, I would assume that's what they do. And there's a nice little coming out party for him. And hopefully, Ron Francis knows what he's doing. And as you know, I'm a huge Ron Francis fan, but I don't know what's going on unless he's getting a little flack about, hey, we need to be in the playoffs a couple more years in a row to get this fan base solidified.
And I do think that they do.
So, and then
especially with seeing, not to put them in constant comparison with Vegas, but they're the two most recent expansion teams. I do think that he may be getting a little bit of flack because people are seeing that Vegas is consistently in the playoffs, and they think that Seattle should at least be a little bit more competitive than they have been.
Yeah, and it's just that simple. And I think you're spot on. Vegas kind of screwed them. Now that's the standard. Well, the standard's really friggin' high.
Yeah.
And as we've known with more expansion, a lot of teams don't make the playoffs now. It's not like it was 20 years ago. So,
right.
But yeah, I would say Beniers sometime this summer.
Perfect. Well, that's all the time that we have for this episode.
Holy shit.
Yeah. We talked a whole hour. Wow. It surprises us every time.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Hopefully all of you listeners have listened for a whole hour.
We love it. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify. Oh, yes, sorry, Crusty. Crusty got
for anybody who's listened this whole time, should I give them an update about what we were talking about last week?
What were we talking about?
The 4-team tournament?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the best news.
Well, you can say that one.
Hey, you want to say the first one?
Okay, Cooper will be coaching Team Canada.
Okay.
Mike Sullivan from Vegas will be coaching the USA team.
Okay.
Antti Penneman or something like that will be coaching Finland.
And the assistant coach for Finland for the 4 nations will be Hockey Princess's favorite, and I keep the streak alive of bringing him up every week. That is your Tomo Ruutu. Coaching for another international competition. It's going to be go Finland.
Yeah, so as we said in the last show, would they have to be NHL coaches? The answer is no. Sweden's still undecided. Now go back to your thing. Tell everybody to hit everything. Tell them to open up your windows. Yell, Hockey Princess! Hockey Princess!
Hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. Give us a review. Let us know how we're doing if you've listened this far.
Yeah, if we're shit, tell us we're shit.
Exactly. We'll still be making episodes.
That's right.
Or if you have any questions, comments about the Blackhawks, about anything we talked about today, anything we talked about last week or a couple of weeks ago, send us a message. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can email us at thehockeyprincess@gmail.com, and we will definitely answer any of your guys' questions. That is all, and we will talk to you guys next week.